Hello friends, I'm back for another video and I'm trying out a different format today, so we'll see how it goes. Bear with me as I learn all this new technology, these rigs, this setting here. It always takes some trial and error, so here we go, trying it out. And hopefully you can hear me all right. So today I'm going to be doing a collective reading. So I ask that the messages that come through are for the highest good of all life, especially for the beings that are tuning in to this reading today. The way that I do readings is they are timeless always, and they're always just tapping into the current energy. So none of this is meant to be predictive in any way. There was a saying that a reader that I tuned into once used to use, maybe she still does, I'm not familiar with her readings anymore, but she used to say, time is fluid, energy is fluid. Everything is in constant flux, right? And it's all based on, as I was speaking on last time, if anyone tuned into my videos before, we were talking about relational energy and how the internal and the external are always in relationship with one another. So the external energy is never dictating what's happening. It is simply one aspect of things. So hopefully this will give you some insight into something that you're experiencing, but you always still have the ultimate ownership and responsibility over your own life experience. If it doesn't resonate for you, if it doesn't feel true to you, it's not for you. It doesn't have to be for you. You don't have to accept it. It may just be something that you need to be aware of so that you can clear it from your energy. It doesn't really matter. Do what feels best for you. So, all right, let's start with, I think I'm gonna start with the Sacred Woundings deck again. This is the deck that I tapped into last reading. If you are new here, welcome. I'm just getting started on this channel here. It's been a long time coming, and so of course there will be a learning curve as we get into it. So I hope that you find some of this or all of this very useful, and if not, I wish you the best regardless. So we'll tap into what collective energies are coming up for us when it comes to what we're addressing and healing. All right, so the two that are coming up here, true self-disconnection and ancestral wounds. And I think oftentimes those two go hand in hand. I was actually just speaking about this yesterday with my cousin, who's also on this healing journey as well. And it's really nice because we're cousins on the maternal side. And so it's really useful for us to be able to speak through some of this stuff from an ancestral lens. As we're both sort of unpacking our own stuff, we can sort of look at and address what is coming up for us that or overlaps and may have larger ancestral ties. So this was actually something that we were really talking about. And when we're getting into ancestral wounds, they end up showing up as patterns within parenting, patterns within expectations, patterns within the relationships, and the often expectation of self-abandonment, or at least in our case, that is the truth. So oftentimes with childhood trauma especially, we were speaking on the childhood trauma and how it's actually developmental trauma as well. It actually impacts the brain's ability to go through the developmental stages that it requires in order to function, to grow, to fully develop as a human being into full maturation. And oftentimes this is through ancestral conditioning. And most of that, of course, is not intentional. I do believe that most parents, most people on this planet, I firmly believe, are trying their best. They're doing their best with the information that they have. And sometimes the best isn't good enough, you know, and it ends up, even through the desire to parent correctly, properly, ends up leading to a lot of trauma, a lot of disconnection from the true self and what is desired. And same with societally as well. I think societal conditioning and ancestral conditioning really go hand in hand. So oftentimes in our current Western societal landscape, we are encouraged to disconnect from our true self in favor of tuning into what's expected of us, how we can best survive, best fit in, best tolerate the current systems and structures that are in place. And oftentimes we are asked to, sorry, my cat needs out here. Go ahead, Mona. We are asked to let go of or disconnect from our feelings and our true selves in order to conform, to be accepted, to be received in society. And so this card says, this wound will show up as feeling lost, out of touch with your authentic desires, or disconnected from your true purpose. This blockage may lead to confusion about your identity, as well as difficulty making choices that align with your true core values and passions. And so a lot of the time when we are on this healing journey, this shadow work journey, this alignment journey with coming into our wholeness, our true self, when we do that inner child work, when we do that healing work, and as we do that addressing of the patterns that have come up and the wounds that exist within us that have been around with us since childhood, we have to go through a stage of learning ourselves and who we are. So this ancestral wounding, the card says, it will show up as recurring patterns of fear. We were speaking on fear the last video and did a little bit of healing on that. If you do feel called to tap into that, feel free. It's my only other YouTube video that's out on this channel so far. Trauma or limitations passed down through generations, often without conscious awareness, may manifest as struggles with money, relationships, health, or feelings of unworthiness, carrying unresolved emotional baggage from ancestors that shapes your present reality. So these things can show up in so many different ways, and oftentimes we're not really fully present with them. Until we've gone through too many of the same pattern, the same loop. We start witnessing the patterns available in our lineage. We start witnessing the patterns in oftentimes they're echoed in our friendships, our relationships, our job circumstances, our living situations, our relationships with our finances. All of these things, they really come up and make it really difficult to experience a true sense of satisfaction in your life. And so as we start experiencing that lack of feeling fulfilled in our lives, often it will show up as burnout. It will show up as, in my ancestry, especially in my mom's side, shows up heavily as autoimmune disease. And it can become really difficult, right? So it's like, oftentimes we only tune into this healing as we are getting fed up with our current life circumstances, our current life experiences, the things that we're doing we're trying to move towards, they start feeling unfulfilling. Sometimes that can even show up even as late as, you know, what we think about as a midlife crisis. So it's really difficult to start looking at these things and really start addressing them. So I have the feeling that a lot of you are really resonating with both of these aspects, whether or not it's conscious or not. So if you haven't really dived too deep into ancestral wounding, and your ancestral patterns, your ancestral history, if you do have the ability to do so, I would take some time to reflect on similarities or patterns that you see within your bloodline. If there's a same type of issue that comes up in people's relationships, if you see common health issues, if you start looking at those things with a deeper awareness, with a deeper self-awareness, if you look into the nervous system, fight or flight, the way that genetic lines can carry trauma through the body, all of those things can be super helpful. So these are going to be central to the reading that we're about to dive into, and the healing that will inevitably come from the awareness of these energies. So I'm going to tap in now to the Tarot of a Moon Garden. I love this deck a lot. It's really beautiful. So we'll see what comes out from here. That was quick. Anything else that's relevant? Okay. So we've got the Six of Swords, the Two of Swords. I'm not yet sure if I'll read reversals or not. The King of Swords or the King of Wands, sorry, in reverse. Two of Swords in reverse, but I'm not yet sure, like I said, if I'm gonna tap into those reversals or not. And the World card upright. And I always like to, as well as tapping into the larger meaning of the cards, I also like to tap into what the actual, each deck comes with a booklet, and all of the meanings can be slightly differently interpreted or focused on. And I think it's always really interesting to tap into the actual energy of the booklet. So I think I will tap into the reverse meaning for this one. So this one is talking about severity and dogma. And that's really what I'm going to be focusing on, because it really does seem like the dogmatic principles that are carried through the ancestral wound are leading to some type of disconnection from the self. So when we speak on dogma, it's oftentimes all of the conditioning, all the conditioned beliefs that are coming from our patterns, the expectations of our lineage. And those come up in a lot of different ways, and we don't even necessarily recognize the ways that they come up. So from my lineage, for example, this lineage that I've been tapping into really does have to do with self-abandonment, self-neglect, martyrdom as a form of righteousness and a way of showing love. And it's almost as if there's an expectation, an unconscious expectation of self-abandonment as being necessary to show people you love them, but it's also almost the only way that you can gain both acceptance and from others and self-acceptance as well, right? So we wear it as a badge of honor a lot of the time, and to our own detriment. And that can become really difficult, because what ends up happening, I think, a lot of the time is the escapism component. When we're focusing our energy outwards on helping everyone else, on fixing, on healing everyone else, on doing everything else for everyone else, it helps us to stay disconnected from our true desires and to stay disconnected from our true power. And so that can end up leaving us, the first feeling that I really got from this King of Staffs in reverse, because this is the wand suit, the King of Wands, and that's all about action. And so to me, this sort of feels like an inability to act, or a feeling of powerlessness, and a feeling of being unable to move towards that which we desire to experience, because we don't even fully allow ourselves to truly connect to what it is that we're desiring, right? Because that dogma is just so deep in it. And that can become really detrimental, because as we know, I think a lot of this healing journey, at least for myself and my viewpoint on it, is that we are tapping back into our agency. So we are getting out of this concept of learned helplessness. And if that's a term that you're not familiar with, I would definitely look it up. It's about how oftentimes in childhood, we can be, because we are completely at the mercy of the adults in our life a lot of the time, we are powerless. And so we learn through a series of experiences in our childhood. Our subconscious belief systems, they teach us that we are powerless, that we don't have agency. And so that carries over into our lives as adults, when we do actually have a lot more agency and a lot more power. But we continue to be disempowered through the dogma and the conditioning and the ancestral wounding, the childhood trauma that it lives inside of our bodies and inside of our neural pathways, because most of our belief systems are formed between the ages of 0 and 7, I believe. And there might be more nuance to it, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do know that a lot of that conditioning, a lot of that subconscious patterning becomes apparent to us between the ages of 0 and 7. That's when our brains are the most malleable, and that's when we're learning about life. That's when we're developing our deepest belief systems around life. And so we don't even necessarily recognize all the ways in which we're carrying this dogma around with us, because we just believe it to be the truth about life. And so I think we're being asked to get really deep about what we believe to be true. What do we believe to be true? And what's coming up for me as well is this belief that that to be truly loving and to be truly giving means that you inherently have to suffer. And that love means suffering. And I think that we really do need to dive deeper into what that looks like and what that really means. And so for me, what that's really looked like is reclaiming my own agency and my own power, and really pouring into myself as an ultimate act of love for the people around me. Because if I don't have anything to give, then what I'm doing, even though it may appear to be giving and loving and kind and selfless, what it's actually really doing is it's creating an unconscious expectation that the only way to receive is through the extraction from other people and through the extraction of self. And there is a way to pour into yourself and to pour into others in a more freely moving way, without needing to self-sacrifice and without needing to abandon. And so truly the most loving and giving thing that we can do is tapping into our true self and figuring out what actually makes us happy, what actually we sincerely desire, and how to best show up for those desires. And that is truly the most loving and giving thing that we can do, is allowing ourselves joy and pleasure and a true feeling of connection to life in a way that feels good and joyful, and repatterning the conditioning that love needs to be painful and that life needs to be painful and life is full of suffering. So that's really what's coming up with that. And now I'll tap into the Two of Swords. Is really all about confusion and disconnection from knowing which way to move, and having a blindfold, she's blindfolded here, and just having these sort of two pathways, and it can be infinite pathways, it doesn't just have to be two, but not knowing which way to go. And it seems like to me in this context, it's all about, again, this disconnection from self and true desires, right? How do you know which way to move if you don't know yourself? If you don't know what it is that you're looking for, if you don't know what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, then how can you possibly know which way to move, which way to go forward, right? And then with the Two of Swords, this particular reverse meaning, I don't really resonate with most of these. But it's bringing up the context of lies. And I think for me in this context, it's really feeling as if it's about lying to the self, lying about our true desires, because of the conditioning and the dogma that we've received around what we need to believe and what we need to do and what we need to have in order to be accepted, in order to receive especially love from our and acceptance from our family, our ancestry, and that could also be our society as well. With the Six of Swords, so this is then speaking, I'm sort of viewing it as these two being over here. This is sort of the energy that we're moving out of. And these two are sort of more of the energies that we're moving into. So as we move through these wounds and as we start healing through these wounds, we're starting to see, so in this context, it's talking about attempts to overcome difficulties and success after anxiety. So this is about reaching some mode of success, moving through these wounds. And as we move through these wounds, it's like we start opening up to the possibilities that have been present with us the whole time. We just haven't been able to see them through we haven't been able to see the forest for the trees, right? Because we've been too busy being stuck in these energies over here, being controlled by these wounds, this unconscious, this subconscious patterning. And so we haven't been able to see what's available to us, which is everything, right? The World card is about completion. It's about fulfillment. It's about perfection. It's like the end result, the culmination of all of these different energies, right? It's the last card of the major arcana. And so it's all about sort of triumph and victory at the end of these really difficult experiences. And so I think, like, if any of these are coming up for you right now, I think they are coming up for us all collectively in some way or another. But this is what we're heading towards as we have the courage to face these and really to examine what it is that we are conditioned to believe and what we're conditioned to behave like and to experience, and the conditioning that we've received about what it is to be in the world. All right, so I think I'm gonna tap into these Dragon Oracle cards next. And I haven't tapped into these for a while, but I love these a lot. The illustrations are just beautiful. I'm absolutely obsessed with this artist that did these cards, and I really love dragon energies. I think they're such a fun energy to tap into. They're so, they can be anything you want, you know? And I just find them to be really healing, beautiful energies to tap into. So let's see what's wanting to come out here. Anything else? No. All right. I think that's it. I feel like that's it. Okay, this is really fun. So the Earth came out twice. And if you tuned into the last reading and healing, what was coming up was the root chakra. And a lot of this really goes hand in hand. I think the root chakra, as it's clearing, it definitely clears all of this ancestral and lineage stuff as well. And I really connect the root chakra with the earth and with the material plane of reality. So this first one, the orange dragon, and orange I always associate with the lower chakras, especially the sacral chakra. But it's talking about soul family and community. And so I think it's also about talking about how, as we're healing this stuff, right, as we're coming together, it allows us to make space for not only for healed relationships within our ancestry and our literal lineage and our literal family, because I do think that that is really important. I think a lot of the time these days, a lot of this healing rhetoric can talk about just separating yourself. And sometimes it's important to remove yourself from energies that are not healthy for you. But I think the better thing to do is not to remove yourself necessarily permanently, but to remove yourself when you need time to individuate and to self-reflect and to honor what it is that you need, right? So not to self-abandon in the name of connection, but also I don't necessarily think it's necessary or helpful to not address the energies that are present within the family. And I've had a lot of this myself as I do this healing work for myself. A lot of healing within my family as well, and in my relationship with the people in my life, because as I heal my own inner child, a lot of those tough energies, the frictional energies, right, that combative energy kind of dissipates as those energies are healed. And so a lot of the time, the most important thing to recognize is that the healing is only possible in relationship. So relational healing is only possible within relationship. And it doesn't have to be in relationship with the people that hurt us necessarily. It can be, and in some contexts it is actually possible, but we have to be willing, we have to take full ownership of what's on our side of the street. And we also have to be present with people who are willing to take responsibility for themselves as well. But even just through our own self-responsibility, right? Our own ability to own our shadow and what's present within us, as we change how we show up, it changes the dynamic of our relationships. And I think as we heal as well, we're also bringing in the opportunity to become more visible, right? To use our creative energy to become more visible. And as we become more visible, we are bringing in our communities, our true communities that are also present and doing this work, right? And we're doing it from a level of self-awareness and a level of self-responsibility, radical self-responsibility, that can truly build community when we're all self-responsible, right? And when we're not having unfair expectations of other people, and we're not having unfair expectations of ourselves, where we are all sovereign beings and nobody is dependent on us, especially as adults. It's a totally different thing if you have children, or if you truly do have dependents, you know, if you're a caregiver for an aging parent, whatever, right? There are contexts if you have you know, a developmentally disabled adult child or sibling or whoever, right? Sometimes we do have contexts in which we are truly responsible for other people, and that's different. But most of us are adults, and we are fully capable of being self-responsible. And that doesn't mean that we don't need help. That doesn't mean that we don't ask for help. That doesn't mean that we don't need love or care. Doesn't mean that we can't be interdependent, but it doesn't mean that we need each other to fulfill these needs that can only come from ourselves and can come from God, right? When we reestablish our relationship to the divine, to the unknown, to the mystery, to the larger universal truth, there's a level of safety and a level of trust that comes from grounding into our relationship to the unknown. And from that space, we can truly build these communities that are able and willing to be healthy together, right? And to build what we truly want. So this says, spread belonging, warmth, and oneness. Bring people everywhere together. So we are being asked to truly be as loving as we can, be as loving to all parts of ourselves as we can, and be as loving to each other as we can. And that doesn't mean unconditional acceptance. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean unconditional tolerance if people are being abusive or violent or whatever. You do have the ability to disconnect. You don't have to just tolerate everything, but we can accept everything. That doesn't mean that we have to accept it into our experience, but we can accept it as part of ourselves and a part of what's coming up at this moment in time, right? And the more that we start seeing our similarities, start accepting each other, the more that we have the ability to start building the types of communities that we really want to see and anchor into this world experience. And then the Earth and Fire Dragon. Look at these, they're just so beautiful. I wish this light wasn't so reflective, but they're just such beautiful. And this again is the orange coming through. All of these dragons do have that orange sort of tint to them, and not all of them are that way. Not all of them are that way, but all of this orange is coming up right now, and earth energy. So we're really moving through this like felt sense of safety through the lower chakra system. So this is talking about clearing. Both of these are talking about clearing. Fire especially is very much connected to clearing of different energies. So this is talking about clearing fifth dimensional ley lines. And this doesn't need to mean anything to you. If you are resonating with me, you may very well be a grid worker and into this woo-woo stuff of working within the ley lines of the planet, working with planetary energies, working with non-physical planetary energies, grids. I work with that stuff a lot. I may talk about it more in the future on this channel, I may not. So if it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. Basically what we're talking about here is clearing this energetic, non-physical energy. So that can be the spiritual energy, that can be the emotional energy, that can be anything that resonates with you, right? This subconscious conditioning, this patterning, we're clearing what's no longer serving. And I really love this because it's talking about giving and receiving. When you give, you receive. And when you receive, you give. And it's again, I think, talking about especially the conditioning that I've received in my lineage, right? Where we're talking a lot about how giving selflessly is the only way to give love. But you can't truly give if you're not open to receive, and you cannot be truly open to receive without being willing to give what it is that you have available to you, right? And the more that we recognize these things, how much they're working in harmony and flow with each other, right? The more that we allow for the flow of energy back and forth between where it wants to go, all of these different areas, right? We can truly allow for this clearing to occur and these new communities to be built, and new ancestral lineages, right? We can create a new ancestral story, and connect truly with ourselves and what we truly desire by being willing to open up with the gifts that we have and to be willing to receive from others what gifts they have available to them, right? Because if we're constantly hoarding, if we're constantly taking and never giving because we're feeling, oh my God, I need to hang on to it all, there's no room for anything to flow. But it's also like if you think that any type of receiving is inherently selfless, and so you say, no, I'm not deserving of that, I'm not worthy of that, I don't need that, I can't hold that, you're also not allowing for that energy to flow. So the more that we can understand and repair our relationship with both giving and receiving, and what it means to be in service. What does it mean to you to truly be in service of the divine and of yourself and of the planet? And now it's really time for us to heal our relationship with that so that we can start showing up and building what we want to start building, right? And this is also talking about clearing. Clears your path and the land around you. So as we ground and as we start working through these wounds, doing this for our lineage, and if you are like me, you resonate with being a generational healer, an ancestral healer, being a part of your lineage that has agreed to come into this space and time to help and assist with the clearing of these really heavy and dense ancestral energies that no longer need to be present on the planet. And at some point in time, they may have been very useful. I think we can learn a lot from them, and I have learned a lot from them. Even though it's been quite painful at times, I have learned a lot from them. But now it's time for us to clear. Now it's time for us to move into the next phase and start a new ancestral pattern. Start a new pattern for our human lineage, and what it means to be a human and to be in service and to be in relationship with the earth and the divine, and how beautiful it can be. So this is really speaking again on being grounded, and again talking about service. Be ready to serve, and be ready to show up in service of what you desire to receive and to experience. And how can you be present? How can you be part of what it is that you desire to be experiencing? And how can you open up to those experiences, right? So this is talking about this energy is starting to clear because we are doing this work. And as we work together as a collective, this is a collective that we're here right now, and we're working through this together in various ways, right? As we start doing this, this energy is clearing. Stuck energy is clearing. You can move forward in life. So all of these pathways start opening up as we start working with and through these energies. And it's so cool, right? It's so cool. Even just my ability to be able to show up and do this reading. I've been sitting on this channel for a year and feeling unable to move. Unable to start really posting in the way that I want to post. And I don't even know yet what I want it to look like, what it wants to look like, what wants to manifest through me. But all I can do is show up, right? And continue to show up and believe in myself. And the rest will follow. So the last thing I want to do is I'm going to end with this Lemurian Starchild Oracle. And the energies of Lemuria, I really connect to the earth, but from like a healed point of view. So this is talking about these like future energies in which we will embody these communities, which these communities will be more present with us as we start to move into this next phase of this experience. And if you're anything like me, if you're resonating with me, you likely do have some form of understanding of like what we want the earth to look like, and what we want to move into, these sort of energies that we know are possible, right? And so we're working hard and diligently towards what it is that we want to experience. And I really love this deck a lot, but the only difficulty that I have with it is, because it's a mini deck, the larger deck that that is present, or that you can get of this, it's huge, and I didn't want the big deck, but this deck, it doesn't have a guidebook with it, it has QR codes. So what I'm gonna do is, after I'm finished this reading, I will just like post the meanings of these as well. But this is really talking about flow, moving into the flow state, allowing for the clear flow of energy, the giving and receiving, to truly start manifesting in our lives, and allowing this energy to start flowing, this stuck energy that's been carried through a lot of the time lifetimes and generations and generations of this trauma. And it can be past lives, it can be all of this stuff, right? Because I think really humanity is all connected in one way or another across all forms. And so any lifetime that's ever been lived has a direct connection to you, and vice versa. So whether or not you believe in direct past lives or not, that's totally up to you. I do. But anyways, we're just talking about flow. We're talking about flow and allowing for this. I'm just seeing these waves right now, these waves just crashing, and allowing for all of that stuck energy to just be purified through this sort of juxtaposition, this crashing, right? So sometimes it may feel uncomfortable. Right now, I think there is quite a lot of this energy coming up, and the clearing of this energy can sometimes feel very difficult, but it doesn't have to, if you just allow it to flow. But just when we're allowing things to flow, you know, sometimes it can still feel difficult, it can feel tense, it can feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's part of the experience. It's not supposed to always feel easy. The flow state isn't always easy, but what we can do is we can sort of disconnect. We can loosen our grip, allow what wants to go, allow what wants to come in, to come in. We can give what it is that we have available to give, and we can also be fully open and willing to receive what's around us, right? So how can we keep our hands open and our grip loose as we move through this flow, as we continue to move through these and learn more about ourselves, right? And this is talking about ships of light. And this will be more interesting, I think, to really look at the meaning, the guidebook meaning. And I find these cards to be quite activating as well. They are utilizing light technology, which is similar to light language. And whether or not you believe in or resonate with there being life forms outside of Earth, with being a starseed, with being, you know, connected to energies that are off of the Earth plane or off of the known world. I think this is also just talking about the ways in which we have non-physical family, present with us, and non-physical soul family that is helping us to clear through some of these lineages and some of these really difficult ancestral energies. So be willing to accept help from wherever feels resonant for you, right? And just really lean into what's feeling good for you, what calls to you, what excites you, what makes you curious. And you don't always have to understand all of it at this point in time, just what makes you curious. And you don't have to be stuck in any type of dogma around it, because all of this information, it can be used by you in whatever way you see fit, in whatever way feels resonant for you. So even within a certain thing, if something doesn't feel true to you, don't take it. Don't accept it. You can take the parts of something that feel true, that feel resonant, because maybe that's all that's necessary for you. And maybe the other stuff isn't going to be useful for you. Maybe it's not for you. And it might be useful for someone else, and it might not be useful for you. And if it is, take it, play with it, and anything that doesn't feel right as you're in this exploration, this self-exploration where we're truly trying to understand and connect with who we are and what we desire and what that's going to look like for us. You're allowed to experiment and just allowed to continue to, oh, look at that. This guy wanted to come out. I didn't even, he just fell out at the bottom. But another dragon, another lower chakra energy. This one is more solar plexus, but look, oh, I just love the artwork of this deck too. Is just so stunning and so like cute. It's just very like, yeah, I don't know. I resonate very deeply with this deck. I think it's so playful and just beautiful. And this is just talking about sovereignty. So just remember that you are the ultimate power in your own life. You are the ultimate power in your own life. You are a sovereign being. You are a sovereign being, and no one gets to take that away from you. And we get to understand what it means to be a sovereign being that is part of a collective of humanity, and part of a collective of energy, and a part of a living manifestation of God and of the divine and of the collective oneness of everything, right? And so you are the ultimate creator of this form, of this version of you. But it's really important to align with what is it that you desire to experience, and what is it that you desire others to experience through you? And what do you desire to experience together? And are those actions that you're taking aligning with your true values? Are you feeding into what you desire to experience? Or are you continuing to feed into patterns that are present but that are not necessarily useful any longer? So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. So I hope that this was useful for you, and that something came up that felt aligned and maybe was an aha moment for you. And if not, that's okay. Sit with it, let it resonate, let it sink in, let it digest, and maybe there won't be anything here for you, and maybe there will be. So thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon. I am going to tune into the closing that one of my favorite readers at the moment uses, My Sol. If you check him out, he's great, but he's always talking about being proud, and having somebody just say to you, it doesn't matter if it's a stranger or not, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of what you're doing. And you're doing great. You're doing so great. You're doing so amazing. That can really be so healing, because you are truly, if you're here with me, if you're resonating with me, I can guarantee you've been working hard, and you've been carrying a lot, and it's so important, and you are so necessary, and you are so loved, and you are so divine, and I'm so proud of you. So take care.